mentioned all of the drugs that are out there that are supposed to enhance sexual performance. And you also mentioned the word, you said they were supposed to balance them out. And see, one thing that it does not do is provide a balance. Actually, they might give you a big pep, but rarely do we pay attention to how those drugs, I'm thinking about the drugs that you go into a gas station and right there on the counter is, and it's what, I don't know what these things are called, but there's stuff on the counter that tells you that it's going to enhance your sexual performance. You got people that are drinking these energy drinks and mix it with alcohol, which basically just desensitizes the whole body and thus increasing sexual performance. But what brothers don't realize is that in the long run, they're damaging their kidneys. With these high sugar energy drinks, high caffeine energy drinks, they're damaging their kidneys. They're actually damaging their reproductive organs, they're damaging their livers. And what happens is that, yeah, you might be okay for tonight, maybe tomorrow night, but pretty soon that balloon ain't gonna blow up no more. If you get what I'm saying. And there are all type of natural means. A lot of people may be suffering from sexual dysfunction because of psychological issues. You see, might have performance anxiety, if you will. There may be some subconscious issues that are there that have been laying latent since childhood regarding sexual activity. And so a lot of brothers are suffering on many levels from many different things, and these quick fixes that we're finding in the grocery stores, on commercials. I mean, you watch TV, certain channels, and you're gonna see these sexual enhancement commercials are coming on left and right. And it's really a scary thing because brothers are starting to take these drugs earlier in life when they don't necessarily need it. Basically, sexual performance for a male has a lot to do with circulation. You have to make sure that your blood is circulating properly throughout your body. And if you have things like cholesterol clogging your arteries, you're not going to get the blood flow that you need. If you have things like if you're suffering from sugar diabetes, you're not going to get the proper circulation. And thus it's going to impact your ability to perform sexually. There are all
oneness with God.
I knew God, and God knew me, but there was no relationship. And because there was no relationship with God, my 3 former marriages really didn't have the necessary things to be successful. But I remember at a point in time when my wife and I went through marriage counseling prior to, and our instructor, so to speak, or the couple that was doing the marriage counseling, she asked the question, she says, well, when you get married, there should be 3. And in breaking that down, I realized that was a thing that I needed to make sure that we had. So in our relationship now, everything goes through the Lord. My wife gets mad at me, I get mad at her. We both run to God, in order to deal with that. So that's been the biggest difference, and it's been the level of success, or the reason why our marriage is so successful now.
Wow, that's good. And I know you're saying that you counsel men in terms of now that you've learned and been enlightened about your relationships, and particularly with your former wives, now with your current wife,
right,
and how you have to be sort of a beacon of light and sort of someone who models what a true relationship between a man and a woman should be. Talk about some of the things that you share with them when you're counseling men or about relationships that you feel that is going to help them come into this level of awareness about what it truly means to be a man of God, to be a husband, and then we'll transition into what it is to be a father.
I listen to the Lord for what I need to say, because obviously I'm not a licensed counselor. I make no pretensions about that. But because I've been given the ability to be transparent, there are no pains associated with my former marriages other than the fact that, okay, you failed at that. But failure is not final until you give up. And that was one of the things that allowed me to go from marriage 1 through marriage 4, is that I still believed that I was worthy of being a father and of being a husband. So when
as you know, that doesn't work. Changing the other person never works. And the other person resents you for doing that. They're fine with who they are, they like who they are, they don't want to be changed. There's a form of therapy called imago therapy. And imago is Latin for image. The author, Harville Hendricks, who wrote the book, Getting the Love You Want, he coined that term to refer to his concept of doing relationship counseling. And there are several therapists here in Nashville who are certified in imago therapy and around the country. And while I don't have a certification in that, I use some of the imago techniques. And one of the concepts in imago is being intentional. which means that you actively show up. You actually do those kind of caring behaviors that your partner has requested or has said that they like. That you don't wait, get around to it when you have time. You make it a point to do it on a consistent basis. Same thing with communication. Lots of couples show up, problems, conflict. You'll ask them how much they've talked about it, what they've tried in the past. Well, we don't have time. You know, she works, he works, we've got kids. By the time we get to bed, it's 11:30 at night. We don't have time to talk. We don't feel like talking. And so I ask them to find a time each week that they're going to sit down and talk. And I coach them in the process of how to have a dialogue. And the biggest breakdown in communication is not talking, it's listening. We all know how to talk. We don't do as well when we try to listen. When you're talking to me, I might be running through my head what I'm going to say to you. I'm planning my rebuttal, planning my defense. And so my response is about me. It's not about what you just shared with me, about how you feel in this relationship. So I coach people on how to listen, how to respond from a place that is free of judgment, that is free of blaming. Because what you want to do is de-escalate the conflict. If I respond to you and I blame you or I judge you or I tell you, here are all the things you're not doing right, here's how you're making my life miserable, that's not a friendly approach to you. That's not something that's going to slow down the argument. It's going to increase it. So what I tell partners is ask for more information. Ask to understand better what it is about me, what it is I can do that will not trigger that discomfort in you. How can I validate your feelings in a way so that you know that I care about you?
Talk a little bit about your past in that aspect.
Well, my father was, and I love him, and I have no problem speaking on his behalf. He was the typical Rolling Stone. He was not in the house that often. When I was younger, I used to see him so-so. My parents never divorced. Even to the day, they're not divorced. But they were separated for years and years and years. But early childhood, I witnessed my father hit my mother. And I vowed at that point never to put my hands on an old lady, period. My father had he was kind of typical, very extremely foul-mouthed. Never drank, wasn't a drunk, never smoked. It's kind of odd, but his drug of choice was women. He would, at the age at the time, I didn't know, but he was actually taking me around some of his other women. I thought these were just ladies that was putting the jerry curl in my hair, But I had no idea until when I got older, like, wait a minute, it dawned on me. But it's funny that you asked the question. A friend of mine, he's an assistant pastor in Chicago. He said, you need to talk to your father. And I asked him why. It's like, a lot of your answers are going to come from his past. And I looked, the lying, the running away from a relationship, the jumping into a relationship too quick without really thinking about it. It kind of stems from this generational curse, if you will, that came from my father. When you think about it, like, my father never ran away from my mother. He was perfectly okay doing what he was doing and staying married at the same time. But my thought was, I didn't want to be in a relationship like that. So once I started to see it going down towards that role of complacency, lack of love, lack of affection, I need to get out of that because I'm going to end up just like my parents. So, but as time goes on and my father's gotten older, for some reason, he's seeing the need for family, his own family. And is he totally released of his demons and what he wants to do? I'm praying for him. But the relationship between he and I has gotten so much better because especially as of probably the last 3 or 4 months, because I actually seen a speck of his wanting his family. And instead of me holding against him what he'd done in the past,